Order up.
Welcome back to Overproof. This week on the show, I have Lachlan Gunner. He is the distiller at Storytellers Distillery, the owner of Trap Cocktail Bar, and also the founder, or early stage founder, of Master Bartending, all based in Adelaide, Australia. Lachie, how did you get to the point where you first felt ready that you were good to open a venue yourself?
Well, hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I don't think anyone really does get to the point where that's the case, even if you go through the trials and tribulations of formal training and education and things like that. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to a moment where you've got to make that big decision if you're going to jump in or not. And I think the only real thing that can prepare you for that is experience. Beyond that, maybe some sort of element of being numb to it all as well. So if you just forget about it and just try and not feel it and just jump in with both feet. Yeah.
So what was your experience before your first business?
So before my first business, most of my emotions and feelings towards wanting to start a business were always there. It started as soon as I started entering the workforce. My first ever job was as a patisserie assistant, which taught me the hard labour of mopping floors. And then I quickly realised I loved customer service and working with guests, so I jumped into hospitality, of course. And from then it was just seeing how the systems worked and really being inspired by that. As you work through to working behind the bar, you start to get those inklings of creativity, which really helps keep you around and it helps you stay motivated. And then for me, at least, there was an underlying urge to want to start my own business once I'd start moving into management positions. You get to see a bit more of how things work behind the scenes and what goes into making a successful business run. And that urge just kept getting more and more and more. And then it gets to a point where maybe even if you're not ready, this can happen to people where you just can't handle it anymore and you just got to give it a go at least because, you're young, mostly dumb. What's the worst that's going to happen,
Yeah. And how old were you when you
So sort of in spirit of what I just said, the first time I started a business, I was working 2 or 3 years in hospitality. This isn't something I usually talk about, but it was a bottled cocktail company. And that was in 2014. So that was 12 years ago now. So I'm 32, so I was 20 when that happened. And as you could probably expect, it was a bit of a passion project with me and a friend. And it was a great memory in hindsight, but it just fizzled straight away. I moved to Sydney in 2016, so that had a lot to do with it. But I think the writing was on the wall at that point. It was a great idea, but maybe we were just a bit early.
Yeah. With the bottled cocktail, what do you think made it fizzle?
Yeah, great question. So I think hard work and dedication is just paramount. You've just got to keep at it all the time. We definitely had that at the beginning, but as you start coming up against friction at different levels, it really can start to wear that down. And the greatest friction we had was that a lot of bars and restaurants that we were approaching to try and sell to, even if we had the guts to go and actually talk to them about this, were our biggest competitor was just making cocktails in-house. So we faced that type of friction, and I think quite rightly, smartly decided to pull the plug pretty early because of the way we sort of set it up. We had this great idea of being a collaborative business, so we'd be connecting different spirit producers, especially being in Adelaide, having such a strong foundation of spirit producers locally, to bring them together to create these bottled cocktails. And we thought that would be enough value to sort of stand up on its own. But we found as well, one of the largest problems with that you need to overcome is that everyone wants their margin. And so once you start layering that on top of each other, you've got a very, very fine margin for a craft product at the end of the day for yourselves, and it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, fair. And why did you move to Sydney?
Yeah, that was another emotional decision, one that I definitely don't regret at all. My current partner, she was a dancer, and she really wanted to go there and study under a really reputable dancer over there. And I just started dipping my toes into cocktail competitions at the time. My first competition, the Olmeca Autos, it was known as the Tahona Society competition. Yep. The first one I ever entered, I managed to go to Sydney for. And so that planted again another little seed, another little urge that I didn't know what it would turn into 10 years later. But the main motivation for me to go to Sydney was to enter as many cocktail comps as I could. I thought at the time that it's the best place to be for that sort of thing, to be where the competitions are happening. It makes it way more accessible. And there's an element of truth to that. But coming back to Adelaide, I've sort of taken a step back from that idea because I think there's just as much value in trying to make something happen in the smaller cities as well.
Yeah. When you were in Sydney, where were you working?
Well, my partner and I, we moved there with no apartment, no house. We were Airbnb-ing with a roommate. Like the three of us were finding Airbnbs for a few months. And the idea was just to explore the city a bit more because we didn't know much about it. We didn't know anyone that lived there, really, and find something that really spoke to us. So my first ever position when we got there was at a place called Adelaide, which is a basement cocktail bar that sort of turns a little bit clubby after midnight on Oxford Street. And I mean, coming from working as a bar manager in a pub in Adelaide to going to a high volume cocktail nightclub in Sydney, especially on Oxford Street, was a bit of an eye-opener, but it was so much fun. It's just like, I think it was midnight or after 1 o'clock, we transitioned from glass to plastic, and we had really nice polycarb coupes, so you could really barely tell. But as soon as that swapped over, you would just swipe them all off the shelf. You'd be doing 12 espresso martinis in a row, that sort of thing.
Nice. And you've obviously ended up back in Adelaide, so why did you move back?
I mean, like a lot of people's stories that I think moved people around the world and around the country, COVID came along.
Okay, yep.
The original idea was to weather the storm. We didn't know how long it was going to be back home, closer to family. And then we rediscovered where we were from, essentially. So Adelaide is a beautiful city. If you've not been, or if any of the viewers haven't been, I really implore you to go.
I haven't, but I'm like aiming to go soon.
There's a saying here where it's like half the population loves Adelaide so much that they'll hate me for telling people how good Adelaide is. Basically, it's like, just don't tell anyone. It's the world's best kept secret. But I mean, I'm a business owner. I thrive on having people come to the bar, so I'm telling as many people as I can come by.
Yeah.
House prices are cheap, apparently.
One thing I skipped over, but I think we should touch on because it will make a lot of sense later on when we talk about Master Bartending. But tell me a little bit about your the competitions that you entered and why you were entering competitions.
Yeah, so, I mean, one of the things, anyone who's close to me will come to find out I've got the worst memory in the world. I've entered so many competitions. Like, when I say I moved to Sydney to enter as many as I could, I took that super literally. If any rep walked in with a pamphlet that said, make a cocktail with this type of spirit and submit a photo for like, I don't know, $100 or a shout out or the chance to go here, I'd do it. I'd be sitting there with the bar manager at Adelaide, and we'd just be going through things that we could do. I mean, I got some stories about a really terrible cocktail. I don't know why I submitted it, but it's like submitting something rather than nothing was sort of my mentality back then, just to get the reps in and try and get the feedback. And what I learned, and I mean, this is, I think, speaks to Master Bartending a little bit, is because of my memory being so bad, is I was tracking everything on like just notes on my computer, like a notepad, just like new line, just go, I've entered this competition. This is how I did. I entered this one. This is how I did. And I've still got that today just to keep track as to what I've entered in the past and how I've gone. But I mean, as I'm sure we'll talk about the last month or two, I can probably delete that now.
Yeah, amazing. We will get to Master Bartending, but I want to kind of follow a bit of a storyline first. Yeah. So you've ended up back in Adelaide. Are you still entering competitions after COVID, or you have stopped? You are?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I've entered a few, but I'm doing a lot more sparingly now because my responsibilities have sort of shot through the roof since starting the cocktail bar and the distillery, which was a COVID baby as well. We came out in 2020. So I'm a bit more selective with the competitions I choose to enter. And there are reasons for that, which we can go into if you want to, but yeah, I'm still entering.
Yeah, tell me, what's the selection process for you?
So some of them are a little bit more transactional. And I say that in a way where it's like, okay, you can sort of tell when a competition comes along your radar, depending on how it has come across your radar, if it's going to be one that a lot of people enter or not. And so if I think I've got a good chance, and you sort of pick your battles, right? If I think I've got a good chance of at least making it through to the next round, and making it to the next round I think is worth it, then I'll take the time to enter that. Mm-hmm. But that's very far and few in between. They're sort of like, I don't know, trying to find outside odd bets if you're gambling. I'm not much of a gambler, but they don't come around very often, and you can't really find them. They've got to come to you. So the ones that I'm really passionate about are the big ones. World Class is the one I've had the most notable success in over the past few years. And a competition like that, for me at least, and every competitor's going to have something different, is the journey just doesn't start with the entry and the exit of the competition for that year. It's a multi-year thing. And I mean, I'm still learning things every year I enter and progress through to different rounds in. One thing that sort of stood out to me as something I learned was the amount of energy and effort that the finalists were putting in at the national level when I first got to nationals. Mm-hmm. People that are winning this competition, as soon as they find out, or even before they find out, but they expect to be in the national final, they almost just drop everything and work on it full time.
Yeah.
And if some people have the forethought to want to win eventually, if not this year, then they'll even start putting in investments to like year-long investments to win, like things like ferments, and just build up a bit of a library of ingredients where if the right brief came out for world class, for instance, you've got something in the bank that you can bring out and use for it.
Yeah. World class is crazy. My poor husband is so upset because we've moved from New Zealand. And in New Zealand, we were there for 7 years, and World Class was not hosted once, but it used to be. And we've just moved to Indonesia, and they've canned it here as well.
Oh, have they really? So back in New Zealand, was it joined to the Australian one, or there just wasn't anything at all?
Nothing at all. We couldn't enter the Australian one either.
Yeah, I think that sort of speaks to a little bit. Yeah, I think that sort of speaks to how the competitions are in general. Like, they're only going to be in places where it makes sense for them to be in because they've got a certain set of goals, quite rightly so.
Yeah.
If there was a system or framework or just a sort of longing for people to do cocktail competitions in smaller markets themselves, then I think that's a really good way to create what I guess what is known in traditional sports as feeder series. So you can develop in-house talent so that when they do well and you get the top 10 of New Zealand, for instance, then World Class can go out to the top 10 at least and go, this is a little bit lower investment, but we know you're good. Come on over and do Australia or something like that. But
yeah, I think that's what a lot of comps do now with New Zealand. They kind of just like loop them in with the Australian version of the comp, which is cool because then like free trips to Australia.
Yeah, exactly right. And my first comp I went to Sydney. It was great.
Yeah. And have you flown anywhere else with comps?
Yeah, so by and large Sydney. I don't know if it's just me specifically just having a bad line of competitions. The odd one here and there in Melbourne are the major ones. So Sydney or Melbourne, the two big ones. I was there sort of mid last year for Nikka, the Japanese whiskey competition. The furthest I've gone for a competition, I was lucky enough. It was actually a cocktail competition adjacent one. It was run by Libby Glassware. They had a worldwide contest called the Glassology contest. And so you could enter if you're a designer as opposed to a bartender as well. And they selected a few people from lots of different countries around the world. So I was lucky enough to go to Amsterdam for that. But
sick.
I haven't seen any Australian finalists since I did that. So I hope I haven't ruined it for everyone, but I'm sure those flights were a bit expensive.
What, did you have to design a glass? What was the competition?
Yeah, design a glass. Yeah, so this is a number of years ago. I think it was 2017 or 2018.
That's cool.
You had to design a glass, and I believe it had to have some type of story with it. I'm not sure if it had to be specifically for a serve. One of the competitors, for instance, that did really well, there's like a fish that mates at the bottom of the sea floor, and when it does, it creates this really intricate pattern. I'm pretty sure it was had a coupe glass where the bottom, almost like the punt of a wine bottle, the bottom of the coupe glass was in that same pattern.
That's cool.
And they judge you based on things like how feasible it is to produce and how widespread it can travel. And there's I think it's called the Gatsby range by Libby or something along those lines. And that was actually one of the winners of maybe even my year. It was sort of like a Great Gatsby sort of themed style of glass.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. There's one thing that I notice about the people that I talk to on this podcast is that whether it's one thing or another, they all have like a certain drive to go out of their way and like dedicate themselves to one thing, which kind of sounds like what you've done with cocktail competitions, especially initially. It's like you were just, I'm going to get all of them and try enter and get my reps in to make myself better, which is something that seems to like resonate throughout the people that I talk to on this pod, which is just an interesting observation. With the move back to Adelaide, let's get back there. So COVID happened, you moved back during COVID. Did you go back with the intention of starting the distillery, or did you go back with the intention of just like getting a job?
No, I didn't even go back with the intention of getting a job. I went back with the intention of going back to Sydney when I was able to.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so I was working for a company, Liquid and Larder. Big shout out to them. They're absolutely amazing employees when I was there.
Cool.
We, like everyone else did, got stood down for at least a period of time to weather through all that. And like I said, we went back to Adelaide at least for the interim period. And then I think this probably happened to a lot of people is when you've got a lot of time to think, you've got a lot of time to explore yourself and opportunities obviously present themselves. And that's what's happened to me. I wanted to be back home. I wanted to stay close to family. I knew that for sure. So I handed in my resignation to the guys back in Sydney. And then I think it was maybe a week where I, interestingly enough, replied to a Seek advert for a distiller position and had the interviewed well and came on board as a partner then and there. So there's four of us at the time, so employee number one, I guess.
What a job interview. That's so interesting. I have never heard of that happening to anyone before. Yeah,
it was definitely a unique experience. We gelled really well. Like on any other given day, you wouldn't see us group of guys, I think, as friends, but I've really come to get to know them. And even then and there, we clicked really, really well. They're all retired, for instance, is a good example of what I'm talking about. So it's a passion project that they wanted to pursue. back then. And it was something, I've always said I love flavors. I talk about experience, I talk about hospitality, and I talk about cocktails, but really the underlying thing that gives me instant feedback about what I do is flavors. And making cocktails is making flavors in the glass, but as soon as you create something like gin or a spirit product, you're creating flavors in the bottle, which can go a lot further than what something can in a glass generally. So
yeah. And with the distillery, had you been a distiller before?
No.
Okay, cool. So how did you learn what you needed to learn?
I'm still learning. Is the short end of that. Okay. But a lot of trial and error. There's obviously certain steps you need to take to guarantee your own safety and the safety of those around you. And distilling back then, it's becoming less so now. I don't want to say it was unregulated, because obviously if something were to go wrong, you would be properly investigated, and the government and entities that be would act to make sure that didn't happen again. And there's been examples of that. But anyone could go online and find information about how to distill things safely. And if you're not following those practices and guidelines, you're sort of asking for trouble. The only barrier of entry we had was that, and I don't know the exact process, but any equipment that comes into the country that is used to produce alcohol at a higher rectification, like a still, needs to be registered with the Australian Tax Office. And I assume that's so that they can track as to who's producing the alcohol so they can get their tax money.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And you guys have had an interesting run with the distillery, right? You've had a bit of a disaster happen there at one point.
Yeah. I mean, we're very quick to try and frame it as, and this is because this is what it is for us, is just an opportunity to do something different and do something better. Our neighbour had a fire where we were located. It was on a Sunday. It was July 4th, funnily enough, American Independence Day with the fireworks and all that. But yeah, I got called in by a neighbour in the business who just happened to be at their shop being like, the distillery's on fire. I got there was like 4 or 5 fire engines, and it was quite clear after speaking to them that there was no fire inside our property. They wanted to know what had happened, where around the distillery something dangerous might be. But we were lucky enough, and we've been made an example of this in the industry, to show that firewalls work. So most buildings that produce spirit should have a firewall, which is a fire retardant wall. And you can look at the site next door to us and look at our site, and you can see there's a clear barrier where the firewall, just nothing came through. What did happen though, which set us back, is the top of that wall where the fire was coming over, it disintegrated a little bit and it caved in on our side. So that's put a hole through our ceilings, destroyed our cocktail bar portion of the distillery, which was terrible. We thought we would have to close for a significant period of time to repair and redevelop. We cleared everything out, so the stills, all the stock, everything. And then 2 weeks later, another fire broke out in the same property. This time, when we went, the fireys took me in this time to go check it out to make sure everything was in order. It was an empty warehouse, but the entire room was covered in smoke. The first time we didn't have any smoke come in, luckily. And I think the wind was blowing, is what they were saying, differently the first time. It was the same fire department, the same fireys showed up to the same fire. It's wild. Sorry,
but what was causing the fires?
Our neighbour had the fire. I don't think it was properly made public exactly what happened, but I've spoke to them since then. They said it was do you know how you have those heaters, the ones that when they tip over, there's a little switch that turns them off? There's the bar heaters. Apparently one of those tipped over and
twice.
Something alight. I'm not sure. The second time, I don't know what happened. Yeah, in the rubble, maybe something was still smouldering. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, this is 2 years into opening a new brand and even winning some awards for our gin. So it was quite a big setback. But I mean, we didn't do this deliberately. We call ourselves storytellers, and this was just another story for us to tell. So it wasn't it wasn't as destructive as it sounds on the outset. Although we are still even now recovering from it, trying to get back to where we were. So.
Yeah. Okay. And was this like something that was covered by insurance? You guys would have had insurance for that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I take any opportunity I can to learn something new. And going through an insurance process definitely was something new for me to go through and learn about. If you're good with numbers and if you're good with record keeping, that is your best friend when it comes to an insurance claim. Like almost from when you get the phone call that something's happened onwards, everything just needs to be recorded. Anything you think doesn't need to be recorded, just record it, write it down. Because eventually they're going to want to look at all that to make sure that you're properly reimbursed for any costs. Not even ones that replace things that were damaged, but things like, it's called an additional increased cost of working. So if you're doing work above and beyond what you normally do because of the insurance claim, you're covered for that as well. So me answering that phone call, 2 minutes of my phone bill could have been applied to that. You know what I mean? Me going to the distillery on a Sunday could be 1/7 of my weekly wage that's gone into that. So definitely make sure you've got proper insurances in place and make sure your indemnity period is up to date. make sure you're covered for the correct value. So people usually revisit their insurance policies. They're meant to do it as often as they can, I think, but generally once a year or once a quarter or once every 6 months as stock levels change and things like that. Make sure that's up to date.
Yeah, that is a really, really solid advice. We had to use insurance at our venue as well because we had a cyclone that knocked our power out for a week, and so we lost all of the perishable stock. So great advice. The record keeping.
And you need perishable stock. Like if you make a syrup, you got to have costings on that so you can tell them what 4 litres of raspberry syrup's worth.
Yeah, so to everyone who doesn't have their costings, you need those costings.
I know someone that's good at
that. Yeah. You then went on to open a cocktail bar.
Yes.
How did you decide to do that alongside also being at Storytellers?
Quite ignorantly, I think. I sort of knew how much work would be involved building a bar on top of a full-time job. Mm-hmm. But you never know really the costs it sort of takes on you, what the sort of tolls you'll have until you go through the process.
Yeah.
Even now we haven't, actually only recently Storytellers has opened up a tasting room in McLaren Vale. So we've got a little bit of an outlet where we can create cocktails and showcase our spirits. But until a couple of months ago, this whole period between the fire and today, we didn't have a place for people to come, enjoy the spirits, and for me specifically, be able to create a cocktail menu, to be able to use the spirits in a different and unique way and to give people a really cool experience. And so I started getting that itch again. I mean, I left hospitality, I guess technically when COVID happened. I came back to Adelaide. I stopped working nights and things like that. For the life of me, I loved it. I was like, you don't know what you're missing out on not working nights for so long. And then again, that would keep going back to that urge, that sort of seed that's planted, that starts coming back. It's like, I want to get back out there. I want to start making drinks again. I want to enter more competitions and things like that. And without an outlet for that at Storytellers, it made sense for me to do that myself. I'd always wanted to open a bar as well. So.
And what is it about opening a bar for yourself that made you really want to open a bar? Because I think this is really important for people to understand. It's like the drive behind having that venue. Like, was it for creative expression? Was it for money? Was it for ego? Like, what do you think the real reason for having that venue for yourself?
Those examples you gave, I can definitely tell you what it's not about. It's definitely not for money. And the evidence is I'm still here. I mean, if I wasn't at the bar doing what it is I like to do, which is creating the drinks, not for people, but for myself, at very first and foremost, I'd be doing it here. I'd be doing it at home. Yeah. So to move everything, much to my partner's desire, to another location to pursue what is my passion, which is cocktails or flavour and experience and hospitality, it made sense to open a bar for that. And so I guess you can call that technically a creative outlet, but it's, I don't know, so much of what I really love about what I do is about the experience when people come in. Like, it's about what we can do to make that better. And that's the complete opposite of what I am, So I feel a little bit uncomfortable saying it was for creative expression even. Okay. I'm doing it just to give people something to do, I think, at the end of the day, like something nice, something different. Like people come in, when we first opened the bar, people came in, and people in Adelaide love them absolutely to death. If you don't give them much guidance, or they're surprised by what they were expecting versus what they got when they first walk into a venue, for instance, they'll take a second or two to warm up to it. And so quite often when we first opened, not anymore, but people were like, this bar's like it's from Melbourne. And I'm like, is it? Well, it's not. You're in Adelaide. Like, congratulations. Thanks for coming in. My name's Lachie. Welcome to Trap. Come take a seat.
Nice. So there wasn't really anything else similar in Adelaide at that point?
I think people would have different opinions about that for sure.
Okay.
What I built was a culmination of everything I loved about bars I travelled all over the world for, that I was capable of producing. And that's what creativity is at the end of the day. You're basically transforming what it is and trying to apply that in a different way. What that turned into for me was Trap, and what that turned into for me was a cocktail bar in Adelaide, which is two things that are different, I think. And so, I mean, one of my favourite bars in Australia is Above Board. I really like their approach to simplicity and minimalism, and still creating that, not being a compromise, still being able to create good drinks. And so a lot of when we first opened, especially when you walked into Trap, it was quite minimal. And it just helped, at least for us, that also meant low budget when we're opening the bar.
Yeah.
And we call them creative compromises. The bar was quite small. Our ice machine is tiny. Like, we have to empty our ice machine every day, no matter what day it is, and store it in a freezer at the back to make sure we get through every weekend,
Yeah, we have to do the same.
I'm even, it's little creative compromises like that we've needed to do. Yeah.
Can we talk about the budget for the bar? Yep. So first of all, what size is your site? Like, describe the site to the listeners of We Trappers.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what would be helpful, or most helpful for the listeners at least, I think, is talking in terms of capacities and number of seats and things like that. So when we got the site, we got our license, the capacity was 60 people, but the budget only allowed us to open up the front portion of that room. So when we opened the bar, most of that floor space was bar top, and it still is in the front space. And we had 15 seats around the bar. So when we launched the concept and the brand, articles were written about us that said Adelaide's smallest cocktail bar or closest to, things like that. Because we only had those 15 seats, we had a sliding door that looked like a wall. So people just didn't even know that the back room existed. And that's where the rest of the capacity could come from. And of course, we wanted to give the best experience for people. So we only ever had 15 people. You can fit 30 in there if someone stands behind the person sitting down. It's that sort of venue. It's really tiny. And then a year later, we slid open the back room door. I mean, our regulars sort of knew there was something back there because we'd be coming in and out. But the average person had no idea. And we've now got a little cocktail lounge out there, so it's a little bit larger. Trap's a profitable business. So that's allowed us to reinvest anything we're earning to try and grow to where we are now. I don't know the exact square meters off the top of my head, but our certifier has said that if we get another toilet installed, which there is space for another toilet pan, we can go up to 100 people. So it's quite a large space.
Yeah.
And the first iteration of the bar was my house deposit before that. Okay. So that gives you an idea as to how much money I put into it. It wasn't a crazy amount. Mm-hmm. It was just enough to open the doors. So, I mean, I think I got the keys one night or one afternoon, and I opened the doors, I think, a month or 2 months later, and I did almost everything myself. The only thing I had was a sparky and a plumber come by once to fit everything.
Easy. Was it already, so it must have already been an existing hospitality site? No,
it was an office. Oh. So it had a kitchenette. The most recent use for the site was the office complex for a construction site. And that construction site is now the Sofitel Hotel, which is a few doors down, which is something crazy like 30, 40 floors or something like that. So, I mean, all I really needed to do, because most of the site was, I don't know if threadbare is the right term, but it was like the walls were white. They were plastered. The floor is vinyl, but it's like a dark vinyl. So I know I didn't have to redo the walls with my concept. I know I didn't have to redo the flooring with my concept. There was a wall that ran directly where the bar was planned to go. So I knew I had to remove that, but I knew none of it was load bearing. Things like that. So, I mean, it took me 2 days myself to take out that wall and make it neat for when the electrician and the sparky came along. Like, there was no plumbing in that wall either. It was just power. It took me a couple of days to get that sorted. But yeah, it was an office before that. Like, I just made sure that the site was, I guess, like 80% of the way there.
Yeah.
And it had prior approval as a hospitality joint as well from a long time ago. So no change of use was required, which was valuable.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, because that's usually quite expensive.
Yeah. And time.
I'm not sure about Australia, but
it's a time delay as well is the big thing. So it's just a lot of back and forth with the council. But I spoke to liquor licensing, I spoke to council, and they said if liquor licensing sent us a permission to get a liquor license there, we'd sign it saying that's all good. And so that saved me maybe 8 weeks. And that's where the money comes in. If you're trying to build out a project and you've got to start paying rent and things like that, you can really chew into that pretty quickly.
For your lease, did you get any rent-free period at the start of your lease?
Yeah, it was almost 3 years ago now, and like I said, I have a terrible memory, but I definitely, actually, there was a document or a series of publications by, I'm going to butcher his name because it's been so long since I said it, but Sven Alemning. He's hospitality in Sydney. Did I say that right? Sorry, Sven, if you're listening.
I don't know. But he used to have a really interesting podcast on hospitality business that I'd listen to.
Maybe it was that. It was definitely a series of articles he co-authored or authored on another publication that I basically used as a Bible and went back and listened to just how the rhetoric of how he spoke about opening a bar. Mm-hmm. And some of the things he was saying, which I stuck to and still believe in, are things like your rent shouldn't be more than 10% of your projected revenue. You should be getting a rent-free fit-out period, so a period where you aren't paying rent while you fit out the space. And that gives you timelines to work towards as well, which is great for goal setting. And then you should also have a rent-free trading period. But I mean, depending on the landlord, depending on the agent, you might not always get that. And that was probably 10 years ago now when those articles came out, so things might have changed. But yeah, so we had both of those things for our launch. And I think our rent-free trading period, I think the negotiation was, instead of having 3 months when you first open, is we'll give you 1 month and then we'll give you another month the first month of the following year. So we do still get the 3 months. We just amortize it over 3 years. And I mean, I got the 3 months eventually. So I took that deal. And we only just had our last rent-free period come through like last month. So
what's the logic behind that? I always thought the rent-free period, like the logic behind it is obviously they want you to be successful. So they give you a break up front so that you can get things underway and so that you can actually pay your rent because it's a win-win.
Something I found
splitting it. Yeah.
I think splitting it and just amortizing it for them was just so that cash flow was a bit more positive earlier on for them, obviously.
Right. Okay.
And for me, the reason I accepted that was because I at least get 1 month. So it's better than nothing. And I wasn't expecting anything, to be honest. And I still see that eventually. You know, like I can expect to be around 3 years, I'd hope, if things are doing well. Yeah. And I can see that come back. But to be honest, like the way it was for me negotiating with agents and landlords throughout that period, and even now with the distillery, is you can't assume that they're going to be not necessarily on your side, but like you can say it's in your best interest because it makes me succeed. And they're just going to sort of throw that comment away. Because it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, if you're not going to take it, they'll wait another month or two, especially if it's an agent representing a landlord. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just know someone else is going to come along. It depends on market conditions and things like that. So yeah, you've really got to take every sort of opportunity as it comes for what it's worth. If it's what you want, and for me, the place that trap is in, which is off of a tiny little laneway called Cold Chisel Lane, it was perfect. Like the rent was quite low because it had no foot fare. Yeah. And it was 80% of the way there in terms of infrastructure. So, and
do you said you have a kitchenette, so you didn't install like an actual kitchen, you just used the kitchenette?
No, so yeah, I'll try and visualize it for the audience, but just imagine a rectangle room with one wall, which is just benchtop and sink. The opposite wall is the wall we removed and put a bar there. So essentially, if you're at the bar, you turn around, take a few steps and you're at that kitchenette, which is just cabinetry and a sink. And there was a space for a dishwasher, but obviously just like not a commercial dishwasher, it's a normal dishwasher. So we put our glass washer in there, and all I did was change the door handles on that cabinetry. And the idea, I knew the lights were going to be dark, we're just going to turn it down, it would disappear in the back. If people really looked, they'd probably see it, but they're compromises that I had to make sure that I could open a bar, because I needed to open a bar. It wasn't a choice, I need to open it. So
interesting. It's just because you said that your upfront cost was about the deposit for a house, so that is quite low. Like it's a small budget, what I'm thinking, for opening a bar in the first place, and a kitchen immediately increases that cost hugely. So interesting. And you said that you're also profitable, so with 15 seats and no food offering, how did you make that happen? Because that's quite a feat.
Yeah, so, I mean, we weren't profitable to start with. We're profitable now. So we definitely very quickly tried to prioritise wherever there was leakage in costs. That was priority number one. So as an example, we opened, when we first launched the business, Tuesday to Sunday, and we launched Sundays with $10 daiquiris and $10 Negronis for hospitality. And that did really well for like the first few months, because it meant people were coming in, hospitality were coming in, they were enjoying themselves. They got to see the bar, they'd recommend it to their guests, things like that. Once the value of that started to wear thin because people had already been, we were just bleeding of wages, because Tuesdays weren't that busy. Sundays were break even, if that, depending on the Sunday, given the things. We were very quick to go, okay, we're just going to have to close on these days and just run Wednesday to Saturday. And that was one of the biggest decisions I made, because it actually meant, and I didn't know this when I opened the bar, I thought it was going to be great, as everyone does, but it meant reducing people's hours. And that's the worst thing that's the worst thing in the world. You got to sit someone down and be like, hey, I know you were doing 3 days a week, 4 days a week, even if it wasn't full time, but you were doing maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday. We're going to have to just put you on a Friday and Saturday and see how we go for a little while. Don't underestimate people, especially if you've worked with them and you've been kind to them, and like anyone should be, and they're a friend of yours. They'll see the writing on the wall. They'll be like, yeah, I worked last Tuesday, we had like 3 guests in. Like I knew it wasn't going to happen. So it's like, okay, cool. We'll set a date 3 weeks from now. We'll close on Tuesday. If you want to find other work, that's totally fine. I'll be a reference, things like that. And the team we started with are still friends to this day. Like they're the best bunch of people.
Nice.
Sorry, going back to your question, like you've got to make how we became profitable. We reduced our hours straight away. Not straight away, but like it was one of the biggest decisions we made early to save on wages. And then we worked we sort of did all this in parallel, but we worked towards opening the back room so we could take advantage of our capacity, which is still 60 people. It took us about a year to get that up and running. And then we opened that up for special events, some weekends and things like that, but we didn't really have the budget to fully invest in heaps of seats to go out there and all that. So as it's sort of like a snowball, right? Like as it starts to build, you can start to reinvest and start growing the backspace. A year in, we opened the backspace. Over the next year, we turned it into a full-time back room. So now it's open every day of the week that we're open. And then we found, I mean, it's the Pareto principle, right? Like 80% of revenue comes from 20% of your efforts. So we found so much of our revenue was coming from large scale events once we opened up the back room. So we really tried to roll into that. We've got something called called House Party. When people come into Trap, they think it's someone's kitchen. I mean, our fridges behind the bar are home fridges, like people draw on them and stuff, but they're for free. I got them for free. I didn't pay for them.
Nice.
And so it is basically someone's kitchen is what it feels like, and we roll into that. So we do house parties, like red cups and things like that. And people really enjoy that, and that subsidises the general operating portions of the business.
Yeah, cool. So you've got to get a little bit creative with what you're doing and just try out different things.
Yeah, and play to your strengths too. Like this, I'm pretty lucky. I don't think many people are like this, but because I had the distillery as well, I had the opportunity to have some level of vertical integration between the two businesses. Yeah. And what that basically means is if I'm going to have an event, I don't necessarily need to, especially if I'm scrambling for an event, I don't necessarily need to find a sponsor for it. I can just work with Storytellers and we can sponsor the event because it's beneficial to both businesses and things like that.
Yeah, very handy. And you're the sole owner of Trap, right?
Yeah, Trap, yeah.
Have you ever found that difficult to not have a business partner in that with you?
I've got a very strong support network, which goes a long way. And I think the value in that is less about advice and less about business decisions on a day-by-day basis. And it's more of a what is happening. Like on the biggest scheme of things, it's like that was a pretty quiet winter. And I talked to someone about that and they're like quite supportive in that regard. You know, I think that's where the value really comes from. It is hard though. Like I won't get you wrong. It is hard. I thought I'd done a lot of education before opening the bar about how to open a bar. I've read all the books and things like that. But until you're faced with the decision at hand, you don't know what answer to give it. So there were a lot of answers I needed, which I had to continuously learn about, which less so came from my support network. Like I said, that was more of an emotional thing and we were sort of working that through together. But it came from things like books. It came from just Googling what other people have done in the industry on Reddit and on forums and things like that. And to be honest, even like with ChatGPT's come out, like just asking it questions about how to go about things sometimes works. At least makes you feel more confident in a decision if you're going to make it anyway.
Yeah, very true. And how do you split your time? Because you've also now got another business on top of these two businesses. So I imagine that you're a very busy person. And you said that you have a partner as well, right?
Yeah. Her name's, we've been together a very long time now.
Do you ever see her?
Yeah. We glance like ships in a night we pass. When we were living in Sydney, Della Hyde, I used to finish at like 4 a.m. and she would wake up about 3 o'clock to go to do her job in the gym. And everyone catches trains in Sydney. So obviously I'm coming on the home train. She's leaving on the morning train. I see her on the opposite side of the platform. But that was like when I just had a full-time job. Like we didn't really see each other that much. But we've just learned to, I think, really value the time we do spend together. We'll constantly check in. And it's just an ongoing thing. We just need to continue working on it. And even now it's like, hey, we haven't seen each other in a while. Like, let's catch up. Let's touch base. Let's figure out what we're going to do together, you know, as opposed to anything else. But Master Bartending is a very small and new thing. So I don't necessarily know how it's going to look in the grand scheme of other businesses when it comes to my time. But at the moment, it's very much a subsidiary of Trap. And so the excuse I give myself at least is I can work on Master Bartending whilst I'm meant to be doing Trap things because it is Trap.
Okay, cool. So tell me about what Master Bartending is, and then maybe it'll make a little bit more sense to people listening. Cool.
So I mentioned earlier that I had this notepad. Essentially, it's all my cocktail competition entries, how I've gone up in those competitions. So if I went to national finals or if I won it or anything like that. And I was just constantly updating that. And the last few world-class experiences I've had, they've all been positive, but I didn't realize what I was missing out on when you actually ask for feedback from a competition of that level. It's like a 10 or a 20-minute conversation with someone inside the organization who knows how you did. And they go through basically your entire experience in the finals, because at world class you do different challenges generally, so you do 3 or 5 challenges on the same day. So we'll go through each challenge, we'll go through what resonated with the judges, what didn't, and it's almost like having a coach. And it just sort of dawned on me at one point, it's like cocktail bartending it can be a sport. I think it is a sport. People can dedicate their lives to it. They can get a lot of personal success out of it for themselves, but also monetarily, I guess you can too. You can win some prize money here and there, and you can get trips paid for and things like that. But it also does really well for your personal brand and for your career as well. It just didn't make sense to me at the time why it hasn't gone over that precipice of becoming an actual sport. And so it took me a lot of thinking and a lot of sort of brainstorming to try and nail down exactly what the ecosystem's currently like and what's sort of stopping it. I don't think I've actually figured it out yet, but I've got a few good ideas. There are a lot of competitions that are big enough to be sports almost by themselves. World Class, I think, is a great example of that. They've got 100,000 bartenders. I don't know if they enter every year, but on their website, for instance, they've educated that many bartenders. So there's at least the opportunity for that many to come into the program. But at the end of the day, they're all sort of independently organized and run for their own unique goals. And the more I researched into it, that's called fragmentation in a market. And it's like, if everything's fragmented, you can't organize, you can't make decisions in the best interest of the industry. And when I mean industry, I mean cocktail competition ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the missing layer, then it makes sense for someone to go out there and to try and consolidate that fragmentation. But the second closest thing I think we have globally, and please, I hope a lot of people listen to this, and if you've got another example, please reach out. I'm always trying to learn, is the International Bartenders Association. They seem to be a sort of a third party that's unbiased, that runs their own competitions, and is sort of one of the other leading parts of the global cocktail competition industry when it comes to events. But aside from those two, I think if we want to sort of turn bartending into an elite sport, it needs to have a trusted system. And I'm not saying the system's not trusted at the moment, but we don't know if it can be trusted or not because it's all private, it's all fragmented, and a lot of things like results and like even placements. Like if you enter a competition and you are in a final and you don't win, you don't know where you place. It's not published generally. Every competition is different, but like we need to have those things for the sport itself to progress. And so I found through a lot of time and thinking about it, I found a way I think we can do that. It's just going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of coming together, which is literally the point. It's consolidating. And it's going to take a lot of changing people's perceptions about what cocktail competitions are at the moment and what they can be. And I think it's the ultimate pub sport, to be honest.
Okay. And what is Master Bartending doing to...
Yeah, exactly. Cool. That would help. So eventually we want to be a part of a global sport, which is cocktail bartending. To get there, the first thing we've done, and this is what I did last year, was create a set of trial competitions within Adelaide. And the idea here was to develop proof of concepts to make sure that competitions themselves could be profitable, not necessarily a loss leader, that they could operate with integrity. They could operate brand agnostically, which means brands can be a part of it, but brands aren't the core of it. They're there. And you see this in sports with sponsors all the time. Like Formula One, for instance, you see sponsors that are motorsport oils, and they're probably even in the cars, a lot of them, but somehow there's no conflict of interest there and there's a way to do it. Mm-hmm. And those competitions I did 10 competitions in 8 months. The reason we ran them was also to test speed, because we started with speed, as a discipline within what could be a final sport, to see if it resonated with bartenders, resonated with sponsors and viewers, and to try and formulate an infrastructure around how to run a speed competition and copy it in multiple places, right? So I've seen speed competitions before where there's a judge that tastes the cocktail, and that's a bit subjective. So we're trying to remove elements of the competition that were that and try and bring in objective measuring parts of the competition. So for instance, we weigh all of the ingredients before an attempt has been made, and we weigh them afterwards to know what's been poured. And we also weigh the cocktail before and after, so we know exactly what's inside the drink without having to taste it. Like we don't taste these drinks. And it sounds a bit crazy because you're making a cocktail. It's like, taste the drink to make sure it's good. But we know it's good because what the ingredients are in it. So we did those 10 competitions in 8 months. We crowned a winner. Congratulations, Tom Egan. He made the fastest cocktails, I guess, on average over those 10 competitions. People are asking me if I'm going to do it again this year. Decided at this point because I've moved on to something else. It's just me that's sort of leading this at the moment. I've moved on to Master Bartending as a platform, and that's going to take up a lot of time, so I'm not sure if we'll bring those back. But as of a couple of weeks ago, Master Bartending has released an online web application. So you can go to masterbartending.com.au, you can sign up and create an account. When you sign up and create an account, nothing is different. You just go onto the webpage, everything looks the exact same. But what it does is it unlocks a button for you where if you click it, you can submit your cocktail competition results. So it'll open up a form you put in the name of the competition, you put in the date that it was held. To ensure that what you're saying is correct, we require you to submit a source as well. This is in the form of a website link. So if, say, you won a cocktail competition and it was published in a magazine, online publication, you copy and paste that link and put it in as the source. And this is the fun part, is you put in where you placed in that competition. So me, Lachlan Gunner, I came second in this competition, but you can also place other competitors alongside you based on where they placed in that same source article. So Sarah, yourself, it could be you, maybe you won the competition. I would submit it and say, Sarah won this competition. And then you hit submit. At the moment, without moderation, because it's just me and there's no users, if you want to use, I please implore you to jump on. It automatically approves that as a true result. And then it puts you and myself, Sarah in this example, on a leaderboard. And you can open it up and go, okay, Sarah beat Lachie in this competition. Therefore, she's got a higher rating than he does. And then because you've created an account, you can then claim that profile. So if, for instance, Sarah, you heard about being the number one bartender on masterbartending.com.au, you go over there and you haven't got an account, but you're on the leaderboard, you can just simply create an account. You can click on your name and go claim profile, and then you own that profile for that leaderboard. What that allows you to do is add your social media profiles. It allows you to add a profile picture. It allows you to sort of develop your identity in that profile, so that if someone else comes across and goes, oh, who's the top 5 speed bartenders in the world? And Sarah's on there, you can just click it and you can go to their Instagram and things like that. But a platform is essentially defined as, if you can build something on it, it's known as a platform. I'm hesitant to call it that because we're not technically building anything on it, except we sort of are, because you can build your personal brand on it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So you can add your socials, and people, it's not a social media. We've got Instagram for that. We've got Facebook. You can go and find people on that and participate in the social media ecosystem. But for the sporting leaderboard system, we've got Master Bartending.
But so what this is going to do is it's going to consolidate all the information from all of the different competitions around the world, right? And then you're going to have the leaderboard averaging out the scores, or are they weighted depending on what competition it is? How are you?
Yeah, so as an act of in an act of full transparency, we've got on the website what we call the Master Bartending Standard. So if you go to the About section and click on that, it shows you exactly how we calculate the ratings of each bartender. And the reason we have that there is so that people can fact check if they want, or if people just see a number and they go, how did they come up with this? Like, is this a real number or not? So we need to make sure that that's there for people. That's a constantly evolving algorithm. So it's not the exact algorithm that we're showing, because people wouldn't understand that. We've got sort of like an English translation of it where it's words instead of formulas. But as we come across edge cases where the algorithm can't adequately give people the right rating, we'll change it, we'll update the algorithm and put it on the Master Bartending Standard. So that's there, that's available. But essentially what it is it's based on how chess calculates the rating system for their players. But the main difference between bartending as a sport in its current infrastructure and chess is a 1v1 game. You're playing against an opponent. So if they've got a rating of 2,000, you've got a rating of 1,000, you beat them, you might get 500 points, they might lose 500 points, and suddenly you're equal, right? In bartending, it's a free-for-all. It's basically 1v10 in some cases, or 100 or 1,000, depending on how many results are on the leaderboard. And so what it does is it basically transforms that free-for-all into a series of 1v1 competitions. So in our simple case, Sarah, if it was just you and me that had results, it would be me versus you. And then it would split another competition, which is you versus me, which is the same thing, essentially. So we'll just deduplicate that. But if it was a 3-person competition, there would be 9 competitions, I think, is how that would work out. And so if I placed higher than you in a competition, but I placed lower than someone else, then when it comes to the 1v1 competitions, I would have beaten you in that 1v1. And when it comes to the other person, they would have beaten me in that 1v1. And it figures it all out. Okay. So essentially what it does is it does that, and it summates all the rating changes for that one competition and gives you an overall rating change for the competition.
Wow, you really thought this through. It's not just like a very rudimentary, interesting. You've got a mind that fascinates me.
Even I don't understand it fully sometimes, but the main reason we've had to do it this way is because say I put up my world-class results from last year, the top 8, which I was in, and I only put 3 of the 8 results there, and then someone else comes along. Let's just say, this is funny, I'll just admit James Irvine, who won the competition. Let's say I came second. Let's say everyone else came joint second, but Jimmy Irvine wasn't even there. He didn't even win it. And then James comes along and goes, hey, I won this competition. Like, what's happening? I'm going to add my result. And then puts it as number 1. What we do is then periodically we recalculate all the ratings. So it'll go through the log of which competitions happened when, who beat who, and it will put Jimmy as the winner of that competition for that that specific round. So it's retrospective, and that's the power, and that's how we do it like that. So you put in competitions from 10 years ago and you'll have a rating.
This is so interesting. And so are you going to do something like number one bartender of 2026 as an example, based on the entries that you have, or like the logs that you have?
So we're always going to have a ranking leaderboard. So we'll have a live leaderboard as to who are ranked, one through however many people are on the platform. I'm hesitant to say they are the best bartender because the algorithm is going to be changing. What's valuable to the algorithm is always going to be changing as well. So, I mean, you might have someone who participates in a whole bunch of flair competitions, and because there's not a whole lot of flair bartenders on the platform, they could be surfaced as being one of the best bartenders in the world.
Yeah. And
so I'm very hesitant to say that that's the case, but we'll have the live snapshot always there. And to be honest, it's not my place to say what value that has. It's up to the community and the ecosystem to do that. So it's my hope eventually that we build this out so that it's a very strong system that people trust, so that other people, not me, say that this person's the third best in the world because it has robustness associated with it.
I think this is a really fun way to put all that information in one place. I'm surprised
it's necessary,
that nobody has thought of this or doing something like this earlier with the rise of cocktail competitions and how many there is out there right now. I think this is a really interesting solution to that. So I look forward to following it along. I'm not entering cocktail competitions myself, but
have you ever entered a cocktail competition?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So you have a result.
I think
you can put it on the website.
Yeah. Oh, I will. I'll jump on afterwards and put it on. I think there's so much fun. I'm just not the cocktail nerd.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm reaching out to a whole bunch of bartenders from all over the world. Mm-hmm. I'm getting 2 or 3, when it comes to pushback, I'm getting 2 or 3 common themes. And in terms of ratio of pushback to positivity, it's like 10 to 1. I'm getting so much positivity. It's great. But the pushback, the main one is bartending is meant to be an art. This is sort of it could be seen as taking the art out of that. It's more about the experience. It's not so much about the numbers. And for me, I think I really appreciate everyone's opinion, of course. And I think there's always going to be a place for the artistic and creative side to bartending. We're not taking any of that away. I think what we're doing is just giving people more options to improve their bartending. And that's, I think, what it's about. As long as cocktail competitions reward you for producing good cocktails, then having infrastructure to make you a better competition bartender is going to make you a better cocktail bartender. Yeah. And so I think it's just going to all work out in the wash to be way better.
Yeah, I agree. And there's always going to be people that don't like it for some reason or another. You can't please everybody.
There's going to be people, I think, a hot take of the podcast, there's going to be people, I think, who rely on the current infrastructure for their success, who, if move over to a platform like this, might not see the same success. But that's just the honest reality. Like when I put myself and all my results in there, we only had 36 people, I think, on the platform, and I was 36 out of 36. It's humbling. It was like, oh, okay, I guess that's how I sit. It's because everyone else won their competitions, and I've just consistently done all right, but because I haven't won so many and everyone else has won by the virtue of me adding them being the winner of my competitions, then they, of course, rank higher than me. So as more data goes on the platform, as people add more results, this is literally coupled together, the accuracy of your rating increases. So at the moment, while it's early and small, I wouldn't trust it too much, but when there's 10,000 bartenders on there and there's 100,000 results and it goes over 10 years, you can start to, it'll start to asymptote towards your actual rating. So jump on it.
Amazing. Cool. And where can people find it?
masterbartending.com.au. It's available now. It's technically it's released, but it's very alpha. So if anyone jumps on and they have any issues, you can email me direct at cocktails@trapadl.com with any bug reports. But we have a system on the website where in the bottom corner there's a little bug icon. You can just submit them there as well, and that comes straight to me to be fixed.
Beautiful. I'll also drop it in the episode description as well, so people can click down there to go and check it out. All right, let's jump on to some just fun final questions to finish up the pod.
Of course.
So, if people visit Adelaide, what is one dish or one drink that they need to try, and it can't be in your own venue?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of mine at all. I'm trying to think. I'll need to take some time to think about this. Generally, when people come to Adelaide, I recommend experiences as opposed to like a specific item. And that's because that's where we really shine, is the wine regions that we have, especially. A lot of the events that we host in certain periods of the year are incredible as well. And so I would implore people to go and seek those out. One dish or one drink that's not my venue. I'm struggling even to think of another venue at the moment. I'm on the spot a little bit.
That's okay.
We can cut this out, so just give me a second. Let me think about it.
Yeah. There's no rush. Take your time. I'm going to put a fast forward, and then if you don't have anything that comes to mind, that's okay. What about we do like one of the experiences that people
I would
should
love
do?
to. I've got something that comes to mind, but it's a bit of a gimme answer is the thing. I want to give people actually value, because people know about this place, they know about that drink, so I want to think about it a little bit more. Just give me a sec. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine.
Cool. All right, I got it. So, if people want to come to Adelaide and there's one dish and one drink they have to try, it's actually a new restaurant that's just opened up. It's called Omada. It's a Greek restaurant just on the corner of Lee Street and Curry Street. It's actually quite close to Trap, so stop and by for a drink. They're doing sort of like a modern Greek take, and it's really, really nice. They've got a gyros, absolutely divine. Wood fire, everything. It's like, I went to Greece a couple of years ago. It's the best thing I've had outside of Greece since then when it comes to gyros. And that's saying a lot, because we're right next to Highney Street, which is known for its street food, the late night street food. And then at the same venue, very talented bar team there, they've created a baklava style milk wash drink, which is to die for as well. So I'm just going to go there on break this weekend and sit down and sip on one of those and smash one of those.
Yum. That sounds so good.
Yeah.
What is the highlight of your career so far?
God, every year it's something new. It's quite categorized as well. So if you say my professional career, I think every day the bar's still open, I think is a new milestone. It's a new highlight. Like, you can pick every 6 months, or you can pick every birthday and things like that, and they're like the moments we celebrate. But I think in my professional career for cocktail competitions, it's definitely being in a national final for world class. I think last year was my proudest moment, because it was the year that I personally, something switched for me where I've always tried hard, but there's a mentality shift where it's like, okay, it's a non-negotiable for me. I need to do better. I need to be better, and I need to win, essentially. And that switched for me on the plane over to Sydney last year. And so this year it switched for me a year ago. So I'm hoping this year it's a lot more fruitful for me, having that sort of mentality shift.
What do you think made the mentality shift happen?
So a lot of the human bodies are weird, I think. The human mind is quite weird. So you can read things and you can try and understand how it is for other people. But if you listen to something that's motivational, or if you hear about someone's story that's motivational, it can really just flip that switch for you. And I don't know the exact podcast, but I was listening to a podcast with the world's best pool player. I can't even remember if it was snooker, or if it was 8-ball, it might have been snooker. And just the mentality that he had about approaching the sport that he loved to be the best, and even like his attitude towards winning and being the winner, it just motivated me enough to just have that mental shift change for the competition. And it was on the plane heading there. So I was like, you know what, from now on, I'm just going to be doing this. So
Yeah. I agree. Like, I think for me personally, I listen to a lot of podcasts because you get so much information from other people's stories that you have no idea how it can affect the way that you reframe things in your own life based on something like pool doesn't really relate to cocktail competitions or snooker or 8-ball, but you can take different learnings from whatever they're talking about and apply it in your own way.
Yeah, it's competition at the end of the day. That's what they all have in common. And competition, I think, tickles a certain part of us as human beings, which there's a reason for that. It's so we don't fight each other, like physically, like literally in a society. We fight each other on the playing field so that we can win and get that urge out. And so I think being able to hear how people at the very top edge of their performance level, and to be honest, what's physically possible for a human being, it's really inspiring. And I think inspiration spreads.
Is that real? That's why we do competitions? So
that's
we
what I've
physically...
heard. Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't have the answer. It's not my domain expertise.
It makes sense. I've never heard that before, though.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The low light for me, over time, I've learnt to try and just not take anything too personally. So try and minimise how much hurt something might give you professionally, because it's not helpful, and B, it's just business a lot of the time. Like, if you have a quiet night, you can't hate on the world for guests not coming into your bar. You know what I mean? There's a reason for that. And I see it quite often where it's like people make excuses. They're like, oh, the Fringe is on, or there's a festival in town and things like that. It's like, yeah, you can sort of try and make yourself feel better. And I did for so long by saying those sorts of things, and it's outside your control. But at the end of the day, it's not helpful. You just need to sort of change that mindset and just go, well, what is in my control that I can do to make sure this doesn't happen again in the future? And it's a bit of a stoic sort of way of thinking about things, just be neutral about everything. So that's all to say, I don't think I have anything that's super, super low. I think for me personally, what is the lowest point is if I don't have a specific direction I know, like I'm not aligned on where I want to go. If I'm a little bit lost, if I'm like, well, things aren't working, what am I going to do? And then I have no idea what to do. And it's those moments, and they come quite often because you got to start somewhere. But it's those moments where you're like, feel a little bit helpless. You're like, oh no, it's like, don't panic. Like, what am I going to do? You know, and then you just start working through the motions from there, and they just come to you because you're a human being. And they're the ones that give me the most physical sort of lowness in my experiences. And I'm fortunate that as you learn more and more, they come less and less because you can instantly know what to do because you've had the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Get the reps in, like we said at the start. Get the reps in.
Totally. Yeah. And the more reps that you have, the easier the solutions become and the more resilient you become as well.
It's an observation, I think, that I've seen a few times now in different aspects of life. Like they also say when you're investing money and things like that, time in the market is better than timing the market, right? And so I'd never suggest to someone, if you aren't confident to make a decision, to make that decision just for the sake of getting in early. But I think getting in early enough whilst having a moderate amount of confidence, I think is the best way to do it. Yeah. And then learning as you go. But you just need to make sure you don't make a dumb decision. Like don't put all your money on red at the casino. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Good. Solid life advice. What is the most you've ever been in the weeds?
Oh, like behind the bar?
Yeah.
Like during service? Like how far behind you've been?
Could be behind. Yeah. Like you're just in the shit. It could be in the bar, could be as an owner, could be as a distiller.
Remember how I mentioned earlier that we sort of pick the 20% of things that make revenue for the bar and sort of roll into them, which I said they were events. We did this one event for quite a large festival that came to Adelaide. And I don't want to go into details specifically about identities because I want to do this gig again. It'd be great to do this gig again. But we got hired to do the event because Trap had a very experiential menu. So a lot of our drinks were wow moments. That was something that if you go into a bar and order a drink, you weren't expecting. One of them was a little robot, for instance. So we had a little cart that followed a line on the bar top that delivered a drink to a guest.
Fun.
Which is great at a 15-seater bar. But if you're if you're doing this as an on-premise event with 1,000 people, it's obviously not ideal. It's more of a showpiece than anything else. Anyway, because we got hired under that pretense, our menu was 5 experiential cocktails, and we designed 5 new ones, except for the robot. We brought the robot along with us as well. And we had 3 classics. I think we had espresso martini, spicy margarita, and maybe an old fashioned or something. It's not relevant. Anyway, we turned up to this event and we sold 1 each of the 5 experiential cocktails, which we batched dozens and dozens of litres for, and proceeded to sell thousands and thousands of spicy margaritas. That's literally it. So none of it was batched for it. We were just so far behind. Like we had a team of, there was 3 bartenders behind this bar. I'm exaggerating with the numbers of people. There would have been hundreds of people at this event. But we had 3 bartenders just making espresso martini at this tiny 5-seater bar that was a mobile bar we'd built. And we had a team of, organised by the event, not us. We had a team of people who were doing tray service and taking orders from people, and it was all free. And they didn't have a docket system, so they would come and just relay the order to us. So first things first, we gave them coasters to write down the orders, and then we just started getting inundated with just dozens and dozens of coasters with 3 spicy margaritas, 5 spicy margaritas. And then we'd give them back to them, and there was no table numbers. Like these people weren't hospitality trained; they were models, most of them. And you're lucky if you had a model who had hospitality experience. They were like the leaders of the group. Yeah. And I think they would just have been in over their heads as well. They didn't know what to expect. So there's no fault to them. They were just put in a bad situation. They were great people. I still know them too, some of them. But that was the furthest I've been in the weeds, is you're just, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes behind what's meant to be 2 spicy margaritas. And it's like, but the organisers loved it. Yeah, the people there, they loved the drinks. The drinks were good. Yeah. We made them.
Everybody's been in one of those situations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not working, which it sounds like you always are, where would people find you? What would you be doing?
People can't find me. That's sort of the point. Yeah, that's sort of the point. I'll be locked up at home, probably watching Formula One or trying to build something new, like tinker away at something at home. Okay. What I try and do, and this might maybe help, there's something called shiny coin syndrome. I'm not sure if it's an actual syndrome. Maybe it's just a joke. But it's like when I'm not doing anything, I always get these new ideas of things to do. And I've learned very quickly and very early on that that's not the thing to do, is to do those things. It's to put put them down somewhere and then file them away and put them in a folder on your computer or a physical folder in your office, and don't look at them for another year and come back to the good ones when you've got time. So usually my mind's always doing something. So I'll quite often be at home watching something or be at my computer just testing proof of concepts for certain ideas I've had, that knowing full well that in 2 or 3 hours from now I'm just going to put it away and not look at it for 6 months just so I can get it out.
Shiny coin syndrome. I definitely have that, but I haven't heard that term before. That's so funny. I think a lot of people who are owners of venues or businesses in hospitality also have shiny coin syndrome, because most people don't have the one business either.
I think it might be called shiny object syndrome, maybe. I'm not sure. I just added the
like
coin
magpies.
bit. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Last question. If you could pick 3 people to work in your bar, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Okay, dead or alive. And they don't have to be bartenders either.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of your answers are bartenders. I can probably expand that. Jack Summers is one. He was the bar manager who started working at Trap. He's not working there anymore, so shout out to you, Jack. You're a bloody legend. Come back.
Nice.
Didn't even have to think about that one. There are so many people who I would love to have at the bar who I don't know. And that would worry me a little bit, because so much of what we do is like very personable with the guest. And I would love to have them behind the bar because they would be really good bartenders and they would be a big name and they do their signatures and things like that.
Everyone gets really, really deep into the thought process behind this.
Yeah. So I think I would like to have working like permanently or just like a rock star. I'm asking so many qualifications. I'm sorry. Monica Berg would be amazing to have behind the bar. She would just be absolute. She is a whiz kid. She is anything and everything to so many people. And just to have her there, just to be around what it is she does, for me personally, would just be a guilty pleasure. And having her with Jack would be a team. And then a third person, I guess I have to pick someone from history, right? Surely.
Yeah, surely.
Who's one of the greatest? Let's get Charlie Chaplin behind the bar.
Oh,
for the obvious reason that there's a drink named after him. But then also he'd be a great entertainer, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Good answer.
Just disappear into the background.
Answer. One one famous hospo, one historic person. It's a great team.
It'd be the most famous bar in the world.
It would be. Lachie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, that was the last one. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. That was so much fun.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
good.
Thank you so much. If there's anything else you need to know, or if anyone wants to check me out, you can find me on my Instagram is drink.tender, but I implore you to jump on masterbartending.com.au to check that out. And I just want feedback. I just want feedback. I want to know what works, what doesn't. And I want to make something really cool for the industry. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Everything will be linked in the episode description as well. So if anyone wants to find Lachie online, I will link that all down below.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I am just going to